Whisper Podcast. Oh, sorry. Whisper Podcasts may contain content that may be sensitive for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
That's better.
Hello, and welcome to Whisper Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Zach Tyler. My pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Dylan Gomez. My pronouns are also they, them. And this is a podcast where
the fine arts, true crime, and mental health are a throuple. We bring you episode 11, and today we're going to be talking about
an artist who has confronted race relations head-on, led protests to diversify museums decades ago, and even went to jail for an exhibition she organized.
Wow. Okay, who is this person?
We are going to be talking about the lovely Faith Ringgold.
Oh my god! Okay, I think I haven't heard of her until today.
Alright, awesome. Well, you're going to hear all about her today. And she is actually still out here making wonderful art. So I'm excited to get into this. But first, I want to know, Zach, how are you doing today?
Honestly, I'm doing pretty good. So I'm not too sure if you guys remember from the last episode I was talking about like how my plants were like dying. Well, I just looked over at one of them and I noticed that they're a little bit more springier than usual. So I must be doing something right, obviously.
Yeah, see, it was just a little toasty.
It was just a little
during
toasty,
our last
just
episode.
A little bit warm. They don't make SPF for plants yet, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're doing what we can to help them thrive. And
they're doing great.
They're doing great. You're doing great, Zach. My plant, Zach, not me, Zach, but also me, Zach.
Yes.
Also, I'm looking forward to some banana muffins that Zach's mom made us. So it's an overall pretty good day.
Yeah, those banana muffins are going to be our reward.
For
for getting through an episode right now.
Yes. Wait. Dylan,
what?
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fabulous. Thank you for asking. I also am ready to try those banana muffins. So,
tell me.
Let's talk a little bit about who Faith Ringgold is. So, she is an artist, right? Who began a series of painting called American People. That's like the first paintings that I became like familiar with of hers. I remember like I went to New York City and I went to the Museum of Modern Art, and I remember there being like an exhibition that just floored me.
Ooh,
and
okay.
Yeah, and it was last year, so it was kind of before all of this all of the protests and everything really caught, like it was before George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I hadn't really thought that much about police brutality because it wasn't something that affected me directly, you know? And I remember the impact, the pain, like, in my chest when I saw some of her works in, like, vivid color and in the sheer magnitude of how big these works were. And the storytelling is just something else.
And this is back when you saw it, like, in live person back in New York.
Yes.
So, oh my gosh.
So when I was there and I was, like, looking at her piece, it was the American People series, number 20, and the piece is called Die.
Ooh.
And that's the one I was, like, looking over at. And it just, like, had me completely floored. And I knew that I would eventually have to talk about this piece. Yeah, so that was the first kind of series of paintings that I think, like, got her pretty well known, which portrays a civil rights movement from a female perspective. So I think that's what kind of makes her work a little more unique, because it's all done from the perspective of a female. And in that time, we're going to jump a little bit deeper into it, but there wasn't a lot of artist representation, especially black women. Like, most of the artists were men. So she actually led the movement for making it more diverse, the art that's being shared at these big museums, right?
Wait, so Faith is a black woman?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing!
Yes, so Faith is a black woman, and she's also extremely gifted. And she has a lot of different art styles. Faith Ringgold began a series of paintings called American People, which portrayed the civil rights movement from a female perspective. In the 1970s, she created African-style mass paintings, political posters, and actively sought out racial integration of the New York City art world. During the 80s, she began a series of quilts that are among her best-known works, and she later embarked on a successful career as a children's book author and illustrator.
Oh my gosh, that's great. What were like her books about? Like,
so I'm gonna
oh, okay,
kind of
sorry, I'm like jumping ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna dig deep in there, but I want to talk a little bit about her life first.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
so Faith
excited.
Ringgold was born on October 8th, 1930 in Harlem, New York. She was the youngest of 3 children born to Andrew and Willie Jones, who raised their children during the Harlem Renaissance.
I'm so sorry, but I don't think I know what the Harlem Renaissance is.
Well, so actually the Harlem Renaissance is an intellectual, social, and artistic explosion centered around Harlem, Manhattan, and New York City, spanning the 1920s.
Oh, I love that. And I love that they felt to keep their children like involved in the art scene. Like, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, so they actually lived like right in the center.
Oh my god.
So a lot of like their friends and a lot of people that she was exposed to were artists and different like creative people. So I think she just kind of was like in it, and yeah, and I think the Harlem Renaissance, the reason why it's like so big, it's because of the black culture that it sprung. So it was like an African American movement.
Oh, I love that. And this was back in the 1930s, you said?
1920s.
Oh my god,
Yes.
That's amazing.
And so that like pretty much exposed her and her siblings to like a lot of cultural offerings, right? But she suffered from asthma as a young girl. Ringgold spent a great deal of time in her house with her mom, a fashion designer who taught her how to sew and work creatively with fabrics.
Oh.
So that's going to influence her work heavily. Yes. You'll see in a little bit.
So is her mom like a well-known fashion designer, or she just kind of like does it as like a career, or like she does it
I think she was definitely, it was like her career to be a fashion designer. So I just know that she's so greatly influenced by her mother that actually one of her medium actually becomes like sewing and quilting, and we're going to talk about that.
Ooh, okay, I'm excited. I love me a good sew.
Yes. Throughout her grammar and high school years, Ringgold also developed an interest in art, and by the time she graduated, became intent on turning her interest into a career.
Yes.
Enrolling at the City College in New York City in the 1950s, she wound up studying art education when liberal arts development denied her application. I actually watched one of her interviews where she kind of speaks about there not being a lot of women in that field, which is why she thinks she was denied the application.
Oh, so you would say that like she experienced discrimination for like being a woman?
Oh, definitely, and being black for sure. This is 1950.
Yeah, the 1950s. Oh God.
Yeah, so
it makes me so sad to hear.
Yeah, but her grandfather was actually also a professor, so she already kind of had educated people in her family to look up to. So she knew she could become a teacher, and a professor. So that's what she ended up. She ended up studying art education.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, that same year, she married musician Robert Willis. In 1952, they had 2 daughters born the same year. One born in January and the other born in December. I don't know how people do that.
I literally don't even understand. I'm like, girl, when do you get a break? Like, hello?
So Faith and Robert actually ended up divorcing a few years later when he developed a heroin addiction that eventually led to his death. She taught art in a public school system and also enrolled in a grad studies program at City College. Ringgold began developing her own art, which at this time was fairly unconventional. She was a woman, she was black. And Ringgold received her MA in arts in 1959. After touring Europe and visiting many of the finest museums, she became very inspired. And that's when she started kind of, like, moving around and really trying to, like, create her own kind of...
Yes. Okay. I love that. And it's, like,
kind of exploring more of, like, the art world. She had been teaching and everything, but now I think this is when art became kind of a more heavy part of her life and her experience.
Yes, and I mean, all while being, like, a widowed mother, like, that is amazing. Women just continue to amaze me.
Right.
Love women.
She ended up remarrying Burdett Ringgold on May 19, 1962, and also embarked on creating a series of paintings called American People that today is ranked among her most important work.
Ooh.
Centering themes from civil rights movements, paintings such as Neighbors, Die, and The Flag is Bleeding, all captured racial tensions of the era.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and this was back in, like, 62, too.
Oh, yeah.
I know that you
tensions
said that.
were high.
Yeah, I know, because I recall you saying that, but then I'm just like, oh, wait, like, this is, like, a time where, like, tensions were high and intense.
Yes. And remember, she's in New York City.
Yeah. Oh, God.
She's in Harlem. That's where she grew up there. So, Ringgold's first solo gallery show is in 1967, featured the series American People. So, early into the 1970s, Ringgold's art took a new direction. Ringgold began incorporating paintings with acrylic on canvas, some fiber boards, and creating cloth dolls with soft surfaces.
Oh, cute! I love that!
Yeah, she's really starting to play around with the mediums. And she depicts like, baseball legend Wilt Chamberlain. And she's now starting to kind of play around more. After leaving her teaching job in 1973, Ringgold was free to focus on her art more. She first branched out with a collection of portrait sculptures called the Harlem series, and then she created African-influenced masks that were later used in live performances.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing! Do you know, like, some of the where, like, the performance pieces, like, were used? Like, were they, like, any significant or important shows? Not significant or important, but...
They were live shows.
Oh.
And they wore the mask while they were performing.
Cute. Oh, I love that.
Right, isn't that so fun? During this period, she also made posters in support of the Black Panthers and activists like Angela Davis.
I don't know why I had a hunch that she would, like, make an appearance somehow, some way. But
you were like, she's here.
Angela Davis, I feel your energy.
Yeah, I felt the energy. Like, you guys were definitely friends, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of want to talk about some of the medium that she kind of starts using around this time. So she goes deep diving into quilt making, which is something that she was inspired because of her mother. Like, her mother taught her how to sew and how to make quilts. And also, many believe that quilts actually originated from Africa. And it's known as, like, fact that slaves used to make them from, like, scraps of just, like, material to keep them warm out of necessity. Yet a lot of their quilts were actually really beautiful and very minimalistic, and yet just really they made nice quilts, right? Yeah. To where a lot of, like, the white people would, like, buy the quilts off of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they would sell their quilts. Like, they wouldn't make a lot of money, but it still was something, you know?
Provided them with something. I think that's amazing. You may not know this because I just saying, like, prints on quilts. How do they get there?
What?
Like, how does an image get on a quilt? Like, do they put that on there themselves, or, like, Do they gather?
Well, like, I know that she, like, paints on her quilts.
Oh!
So she, like, gets her little